Welcome to another fun-filled Friday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Keena McGee, which is she. I am Sydney Brownhead. That's me. You can follow yours surely on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me, Keena McGee, on the Twitter and I can't scroll again the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. You want to know why? Because we said so, that's why. And also, too, you can catch up on our other live shows that we have airing throughout the week. So if you happen to miss them, you can go back and watch them and listen to them at your own leisure. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app today. Speaking of Sports Zone Chicago, please follow us on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, please find Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. And you can subscribe to our podcast at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media Podcast, PODCASTS. And we are also available on the iHeartRadio app. And speaking of War Media, you can follow us on all social media platforms at War Media, WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, that's at WARR Media on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We're unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinions during our 2-hour extravaganza, we call it Sports Talk Radio Show. You can always hit us up in the comment section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions and comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll and or do something stupid, I've given Lakina full power to give you fools to be a lame be a boot.
Bye-bye.
But before we begin, we must remind you that you can also catch Sports Zone Chicago now available on Roku TV. That's right. So celebrate the squad, get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now on Roku TV. If you already have a Roku television, just click on that sports folder and download that Sports Zone Chicago app. If you don't have a Roku TV, you have some handheld devices laying around. Your iPhone, iPad, iTouch, your Chromebook like I'm using right now, or Lakina's personal PC. Just go to that Google Play Store, download that Roku TV app, and access Sports Zone Chicago through that avenue. So no more excuses. Celebrate the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and 365 days a year. Live and on demand.
Anytime, anywhere.
And you know we will provide.
Yep, we do. We try to here. All right, so we got a busy show coming up here on Second City Sports. Going to have one of our faves at the top of the hour, our buddy from CBS Chicago's sports director and also anchor reporter Marshall Harris will join us to talk baseball. Bears is a gear for training camp. So it's a little over 3 weeks away now, folks. So yeah, it's coming up quick. Also, too, of course, Connor Bedard hasn't made the rounds here in Chicago so far. And also, Bulls off season and pretty much anything else. So yeah, we're gonna have him on and come up at 1, and we'll talk some sports media news, but we're going to talk some baseball right now.
Yes, the Chicago
center field going back is Weimer at the wall, and it's back into the field to play. Morrell into second. Red to right, fair ball into the corner, and that's going to score Morrell. Belly showing off the slug. He's into second, and it is 1-0 Cubs. Horner takes off. So does Happ. Double steal. And they're both safe. In the air, right field. Well struck. That one back. That one on its way. And it's gone. Cody Bellinger. A 2-run homer. And the Cubs are within 1.
Yeah, those highlights are courtesy of the Marquee Sports Network. That was from the Cubs' 6-5 loss to the Milwaukee Brewers yesterday in Miller Park. I'm not calling it that corporate name. But, Lakina, we talked about this the other day on our show when the series was going on in the middle of that series. The Cubs, they showed you who they were, both good and bad. Of course, when they are good, as we said before, when they average between 4 and 6 runs a game, it usually gives the starting pitcher the upper hand. But even though I read this stat the other day and I heard it again earlier this morning, when the Cubs score 10 or more runs, they're like 8-27, some weird statistic like that. It's just strange. But as we've said before, when the Cubs get consistent offense to go with their starting pitching, they usually do well. Now, Marcus Stroman did well yesterday until that fifth inning. He ran into a little bit of trouble. I know there's some more news about him. We'll talk about it coming up. But he gave the Cubs a chance to win. But Lakina, as we said once, we say it 1,000 times. We'll say it 1,001. Is that bullpen is what's killing them right now, and we saw it again yesterday.
Yeah, they gave up that home run to Curtini that broke the game over. Actually, after the Cubs came back to tie that game, and look, so many missed opportunities for that rubber match. They did come back on Wednesday and didn't win that game. That was kind of unexpected too. I think that might have saved their season right there. Now they did split, their series with the Brewers, but they could have easily won 3 out of 4, but it is what it is. I guess, like I said, that bullpen's been a pain in the what, but so far all the season long, unfortunately. Now they are, as of recording this, they're now 8 back of the Reds, because of course they've been on a little bit of a hot streak now. They've won 5 in a row against them and after the break. But I think the Cubs, they've kind of shown you why I think they shouldn't be kind of like counted out or left for dead. They got a tough series coming up against the Yankees starting tonight to finish up the first half of the season. If you can at least get 2 out of 3, it's going to be hard to do, especially at Yankee Stadium, but it's doable. If it can just win 2 out of 3 and perhaps maybe gain maybe a couple of games. Because I don't think this is going to run away with the division. The Brewers aren't either. It's really going to come down to those last couple of months. And they all have to play each other in the second half. So I think for me, get Stroman. I know that Bush has been bothering him. He's not going to pitch in the All-Star game. I know people have said, hey, let trade Stroman, trade Bellinger, play this guy. I don't think they should. We'll ask Marshall about this at the top of the hour, but I don't think they should do that, because I think they still have a shot to win this division. They just need to get it together with that bullpen and be consistent with their offense. They're actually pretty solid this series against the Brewers. So it was their pitch that kind of killed them in the end. So I don't know how you feel about that, Sid, but again, we'll ask Marshall about it coming up. But I feel like they still have a shot to win the NL Central. I just do, because we know how comical that Central division is.
Yeah, as we said, for the Cubs, the offense hasn't been the problem lately. It's been their bullpen, and a couple of pitchers in the back end of the rotation, Drew Smiley and Jameson Taillon. I know both those guys were a huge additions in the offseason the last couple of years, but Jameson Taillon, he looked decent when he came back from injury, but he's been struggling lately. Drew Smiley has been struggling lately, but you are encouraged by Stroman. You're encouraged by Justice Steele, the 2 All-Stars. Of course, Cal Hendricks looked great on Wednesday night. Was one of the 2 games that the Cubs won in that 4-game set against Milwaukee. So you're encouraged by the top end of that rotation, but the back end of the rotation, it still needs some work on. I wonder if Jed Hoyer and GM Carter Hawkins is working the phones right now to perhaps get another starter. But the top 2 needs for this Cubs team right now is bullpen help and the third baseman. I don't know if they're going to get both by the August 1st trade deadline, but the most pressing need is getting a couple of veteran arms in there. And we'll talk about one team they can get it from in just a moment.
Well, yeah, I know who you're talking about, Sid. And look, everyone's been pretty solid so far. I mean, look, Bellinger's been hitting the ball very well. He had, I think, about 5 or 6 RBIs this series. Nico Hoerner's been really good. They say it had a couple, big hits. Patrick Wisdom, there's a name we haven't said this so far this year. Said, I mean, he had a couple of big hits, especially in that that tied that game on Thursday, and actually even better, was part of that rally that happened during that Wednesday game. So yeah, I think, look, the Cubs got a shot to maybe try and get some. Just imagine how this record would be if the bullpen has been somewhat decent. They probably would be either right there in the NL Central, or probably be leading the NL Central perhaps right now. So yeah, but yeah, I think I don't think they should trade Strom or Hendricks or anybody else like that. I don't It's for me to talk today. Bellinger's name has been thrown up in a couple trade rumors as well. So people said that. So I just think people need to just kind of let's see how it goes the rest of this month going into the August 1st, and then we'll see if they will be buyers or sellers during the trade deadline.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. If they go on a terrible losing stretch between now and August 1st, I think you will see Marcus Stroman in or Cal Hendricks moved. But if they continue to play at 500 level or a slightly above 500 level, I think that the Cubs front office will add a couple of pieces at the deadline. Hopefully it's another bullpen arm or 2 and maybe a third baseman. If you perhaps get another starter, in there for the back end of that rotation. They'll be great too. Most times you don't get all that you need at the trade deadline, but you can get the necessary pieces for this Cubs team, i.e. the bullpen help first and then a third baseman second. I think the Northsiders will be okay. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago on the Friday edition. Sid Lakina hanging out here with you. Let's go over to the South Side. And, of course, the White Sox are 15 games below 500 at 37-52. They got swept in the doubleheader on the South Side yesterday by the Toronto Blue Jays. Lakina, they had a chance to win both games. If you saw my tweet last night, it pretty much tells the story. You know me, Lakina, working throughout all these years, trying to remain an optimistic person, but the truth comes out when you do good and when you do bad. It's time to back the truck up now. I hate saying it, but we got to keep it real, as the kids would say. We got to keep it a stack.
Well, I'm surprised you didn't say Brinks truck, but product placement, I guess. I mean, like you said, they had plenty of chances, to win at least one of those games, if not both. And look, we saw what happened. The inconsistencies in the hitting, inconsistencies in that bullpen. I mean, that was really kind of like the killer yesterday. They had plenty of chances. I mean, they actually had an early lead. Early on, they had a 3-1 lead going into the third. But yet, of course, those bats for the Blue Jays, they've been playing pretty well lately, and they actually have a shot, perhaps, and maybe making it things interesting in that division. We'll get to that in a second, but it's sort of one of those things where you're kind of like you're stuck wondering, that this team is not good. It just isn't. And I know people, they went on that little streak. People were wondering, are the Sox back? Are the Sox back? But of course, they lose 2 out of 3 against Oakland. I told you about that, Sid. I told you that was going to happen. And we talked about it on Wednesday. And look, it was just like, I don't know. I mean, Tim Anderson's been playing pretty well lately. I'm sure his name's being brought up in trade talks. Lance Lynn actually had a solid showing. He actually just had a good showing the last couple of outings. He had 11 strikeouts, and unfortunately, they weren't able to do anything with it. I think I saw a stat somewhere where they're like, I'm talking about the Sox, they're 0-8 or something like that now with whatever their pitchers have at least 10 or 11 strikeouts or 14 more strikeouts or something like that. They're now 0-8 in those games. So yeah, it's just good grief. I don't know what else to say about the Sox team. I mean, like you said, it might be time to back the Brinks truck, I think, as the kids say. So just everyone's pretty much open, Lance Lynn, I know Lucas Giolito, Tim Anderson. I know people even said, don't trade Luis Robert Jr., who's been playing the ball. Well, this might be the time to actually trade him, since he actually been playing pretty well. They're hitting the ball well. So there are no untouchables on this team, unfortunately. So unfortunately, we're at that point.
I would have to kind of disagree with you, Lakina. I would keep Luis Robert and Dylan Cease, but everybody else is in play. Let's be honest here. With the talent that Luis Robert has, he's the only close to a 5-tool player that you have on that team. We know that Andrew Benintendi, who they signed to the richest contract in team history this past off season, he's been doing well defensively. Offensively, many Sox fans want those numbers to be better. I can see that, but if you expected Benintendi to hit 20 home runs and not get 100 RBI, you were smoking something. But as far as the other guys that could be in play, I think one guy not too many people are talking about that could be in play, and I said this to somebody last weekend, Eloy Jimenez. That's the longest stretch he's been healthy in a while, Lakina. You might not see your guy rolling around in the net in the outfield anymore, but if you can get something for him, I like him personally, but if you can get something for him, go ahead, because I think he could be in play as well.
I think they're like our buddy, Herb Lawrence from CHGO Sox. I think said best. There are no untouchables here, so I'm going to go by his mindset. So, like I said, we'll see what happens. But like I said, we'll talk about with our buddy Mark Harris from CBS 2 coming up after at the top of the hour. So we're gonna take a really quick break. We're gonna talk about the rest of the MLB, and is the wheel starting to fall off for the Rays? They're starting to they haven't been playing very well lately, and of course we'll talk about a little bit more about the Blue Jays. They've been on the roll lately, and the Dodgers are itching closer and closer to the D-backs, and a whole lot more baseball-wise. So a lot more baseball, on the Diamond coming up next. Lakina McGee, Sydney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago. What more Diamond talk coming up right after this?
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class. These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports Zone, a fun Friday fun edition. You're live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. We told you we're unapologetically fun. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. I cannot talk today.
I'm not the only one that's having trouble talking today. You can follow me at Keena McKee on the Twitter and at Keena's Go Get the IG.
We have less than 85 minutes left or so of this extravaganza we call a sports talk radio show. You have any questions or comments for us, you can always hit us up in the comment section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you.
All right, Sid, what caught your eye MLB the last 2 days since we were here on Wednesday?
Short turnaround, huh? The Cincinnati Reds, as you mentioned in our last break, we were discussing the Chicago Cubs. They take care of business in our nation's capital, sweeping away the Washington Nationals in a 4-game set. Lakina, former White Sox and Cub play. I think he played for the Cubs too. I know he was a coach under Joe Madden here in Chicago. But Davey Martinez, the current manager of the Washington Nationals, did you see what kind of old school trick he tried to pull on the rookie sensation Ellie De La Cruz of Cincinnati yesterday? De La Cruz hits this monster home run. Davey Martinez thinks that that Cruz's bat is caught, so he had the umpires check it. Come out to find out nothing was wrong, trying to get in the young man's head, and he lost. He lost that battle. His team lost the game, and now Mr. Martinez, as the kids will say, is looking salty right now.
Well, yeah, he had his. I'm talking about De La Cruz. He had like a little something on the edge of his back, which is actually legal, by the way. It's some type of little like tape or substance that I guess it was loose, and I guess Martinez and I think there was some suspicion that he thought that there was cork in there. They actually checked, took the back off. They checked it, all through it. There was nothing in there illegal. So he actually, of course, De La Cruz hit like a 483-foot home run. I don't think they have found that ball yet. I think they're still trying to find that ball. So yeah, of course they ended up. That's been in that season right there, folks. So of course they got swept by the Reds. I mean, like we were saying, we've been talking about it with this Reds team. They've got a lot of great young talent on there. Like I said, I think they're leading the NL Central, but like I said, I just don't think they're going to be. I don't think they're going to be up there. I just don't think they're not going to pull away from the division. I don't think the Brewers aren't either. So they're fun and they're cool to watch. But like I said, I don't think they're there yet. But they're definitely a team on the rise. So, but again, that was a funny moment over the last couple of days.
Speaking of the Cincinnati Reds, I heard someone say this the other day, and I'll bring this up to you. Can you see, and I don't think they're going to mortgage the whole future for this year, and I don't think they should, but I heard someone bring up the Cincinnati Reds. Do you think that they could be a good dark horse team to go get Lucas Giolito from the White Sox, because their pitching staff stinks outside of Hunter Green?
Yeah, like you said, Sid, I don't think they're gonna they got to maybe trade not De La Cruz, obviously, but they're sorry, White Sox fans, but I think they are gonna have a very stacked farm system. I think they're just playing for like the future. I don't think they're gonna play for this year. So like, okay, they just happen to be at the top. Okay, fine, but they may make some minor moves. But yeah, I don't see Giolito as a person that probably would want to go to the Reds, because chances are you may not. If you do go to the playoffs, you may not go very far. I don't know if you want to do that. If you're Giolito, you want to go to a place where you actually have a chance to win. So I don't see that happening. So, but yeah, I mean, look, I think the Reds, they got a very interesting situation happening coming up, especially if they keep it up with the rest of this month. So we'll see what happens with that. Now, the Mets, Sid, I mean, yeah, I know people, Mets have been kind of like the brunt of a lot of jokes lately, but they actually swept the Diamondbacks, including shutting them out 9-0. Their pitching has been, very solid. Carlos Carrasco had a great 8 inning. He pitched definitely a shutout gem. A lot of the bats have been pretty good. Lindor has had a very good series there. I think he had like 2 or 3 home runs, like 4 or 5 RBIs or something like that in that series. So yeah, I think, look, are the Mets back?
We'll see. They beat a pretty good Diamondbacks team, as you mentioned. Everything went well for them in that series. Speaking of the White Sox, former White Sox reliever Jose Ruiz, I think he hit Escobar yesterday, and then all this brouhaha started, but nothing else after that. But I got to see more with this New York Mets team. I know they're going to have to play the Braves again. I know they got that Subway Series with the Mets. with the Yankees coming up at the end of the month. I know they got to go and play the Miami Marlins again. They usually beat the Marlins at now the new Shea Stadium City Field, but when they go play them in Florida, they always struggle for some reason. But they got to go through that division again, and I don't know if I trust them to do that between now and the trade deadline. So are they back yet? I got to see more.
All right, that's fair. Like I said, I feel the same way you do. But you know how Mets fans are, how New York. I've heard some New York sports radio. They say, "Oh, the Mets back." So yeah, I just want to ask you about that.
Is it from that midday wholesale one and Buck Showalter gone? Just curious.
Yeah.
I know
it. He's been quiet these last few days, so yeah, we'll see. But
interesting, not a surprise.
Yeah.
I actually like that guy, but yeah. Many talk show hosts go which way the wind blows when they go through silly takes like that. But I digress.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. But yeah, one team, on the flip side, the one team that has lost 5 in a row, and that is the Rays. Of course, they got swept by the Phillies. Schwarber hit a monster home run, and also Trey Turner had a couple home runs as well, RBI single too. So that propelled them to complete that sweep over the Rays. And of course, before that, they talk about the Rays lost 2 out of 3 to the Mariners. So, Sid, should Rays fans be a little concerned or a little freaked out right now? Or because, Baltimore, we'll talk about them in a minute, but Baltimore is right behind them. So, should the Rays be a little concerned?
I think they should be a little concerned, but not concerned to the point that, we're going to lose this division and this and that. You're going to have your highs and you're going to have your lows. I think things are evening out for the Rays right now. Excuse me. But I think Tampa is going to be okay. You're starting to see them leveling up to what the team that they truly are. I know they had the cushion of that hot start with April and into May. But I think this is a team that you're going to see. I don't think they're going to lose too many more games, long losing streaks like that. They're too good of a team. As we said before, they're fundamentally sound and they have great pitching. So and they have clutch hitting. So that you need that formula to succeed in the playoffs. I think Tampa Bay is going to be okay. Now on the flip side for Philadelphia, I think we talked about this on Wednesday, Lakina. Aaron Nola, he had a career high. I believe it was 11 to 12 strikeout game. In the first, I think it was the first game of that series. Yep. The first game of that series. We talk about Zach Wheeler, a headline that's starting staff for Philadelphia. But let's not forget about Aaron Nola. He's up there as one of the top 10, top 15 pitchers in baseball as well. So if you get contributions from him, it trickles down to the rest of the guys. Their bullpen has actually been good this year. Alvarado coming in as a setup guy in the 8th inning. Of course, Craig Kimbrell, who did not work out here with the White Sox. But he suddenly has found, and he didn't work out with the Dodgers, but he's suddenly found a home in Philadelphia this year.
Yeah, he has. He's seen a little bit of a resurgence with Kimbrell. He's actually been pretty solid. Hasn't given up any leads, so I guess that's where especially in this stretch.
Yeah.
So I think on the flip side, of course, unfortunately, the Braves have been playing very well. So the wild card is probably going to be, that's probably going to be the spot if they do. Should they do a playoff spot, that's probably where they're going to have to go. But look, I think the Phillies are showing you why they got all the way to the World Series last year. I think they're kind of showing you that. Like we talked about Schwarber and Turner and all those guys. Harper's been kind of starting to get it going a little bit here, but remember he's still recovering. Coming back from the ACL surgery. So I'm kind of like optimistic on where the Phillies is going to go, but we'll see what happens. Now, staying in that division, the Orioles, your Baltimore Orioles, said they split their series with the Yankees, including a 14-1 statement game there, to salvage a sweep there. Gunnar Henderson became the third Orioles rookie to have 4 hits and 5 RBIs in one game since RBI became an official stat all the way back 100 plus years ago in 1920. Of course, Chris Richard, who did in 2000, Roy Stevers, who did all the way back in 1949, back when the team was known as the St. Louis Browns. So, but I think Baltimore, they're right behind the Rays, so they're at 4 games out. So, they play Minnesota this weekend. We'll talk about schedule in a little bit, but what do you think about the Orioles and where they are?
Hopefully, as we said before, hopefully they can get some great starting pitching. You have Kyle Gibson, you have Kramer, and we talk about that bullpen, Lakina. I forgot who that setup guy is. He's going to the All-Star game, but Felix Bautista, their closer, he's going to the All-Star game as well. So, as we said before, the Baltimore's bullpen, especially the back half end of it, is one of the best in baseball. No one's talking about it. So, and we focus in on their offense, and rightfully so, but the back end of their bullpen is very good. So, you keep out an eye for that. But so far as their talent offensively, you mentioned Gunnar Henderson, Ryan O'Hearn, he had 4 RBI last night. Don't forget about Jorge Mateo, Anthony Santander, and you have James McCann, who's in a pinch hitting role right now, former White Sox player, former White Sox All-Star a few years ago. Of course, you got Adley Rutschman, one of the best young catchers in the game, and so and Cedric Mullins, who leads the top of the leadoff at the top of that lineup. So you have some talented guys that can hit it. They can hit it with the best of them. But the key for them is can they get some consistent starting pitching with that young offense? Like I said, the back half of that bullpen is good. It's good, but can that starting rotation bring it in? Because if they can, this team ceiling could be much higher come playoff time. Now, will their management make a move to get a veteran starter in there by the deadline? We'll see.
Yeah, that could be a place where G-Lo could go. I think he'll probably go to Baltimore. I don't know how.
Good call.
I don't know. Like I said, I don't know how their farm system is. So I think if you're Rick Hahn, you want to try to maybe see what the Orioles have. Perhaps maybe they can kind of help them out and perhaps get some stuff, get some stuff coming back. So we'll see what happens with that. I know our buddy Brandon shows here. Yes, Brandon. What's up, Brandon? One of our big supporters here. We know he's a big Astros fan. Yes, let's talk about your Astros for a second there, Brandon. I mean, they didn't have a bad week this week. And I know they lost the opener against the Mariners. They did, win the 2-gamer against the Rockies. Of course, they took 3 out of 4. We talked about it earlier on Wednesday, 3 out of 4 against Texas. So. Could they perhaps? I know they've been back and forth. I know Eugenio Suarez, he hit 2 home runs for the Astros, and JP Crawford hit another home run too. That kind of led the way. Unfortunately, in that loss, I should say, for them, as the Mariners lose to the Astros, but didn't have a good showing there yesterday. But they've been okay. I mean, look, they're still right there in the AL West, I should say, and I think they're starting to kind of force out 2 ways in the IL. So. That's probably going to be another thing that might be deterring. He's not going to play in the All-Star break. So, what do you think about the Astros?
Yeah, as you mentioned, health is the question right now. Jose Altuve is back on the IL. We forgot to mention that the other day.
Yeah.
And let's see if Cal Tucker, who's been named an All-Star this year, hopefully he can step it up. In my opinion, he's a future AL MVP candidate if it wasn't for Shohei Ohtani. But hopefully he can step up. Jose Abreu, the former White Sox player, I know he's been struggling so far this year, but he's going to be asked to step it up as well. And of course, you have Yordan Alvarez, who's a big left-handed power hitter. And so those guys got to lead the way to keep the Astros afloat. Like you mentioned, they carry in the momentum from what they did down there in Arlington, Texas last weekend. They swept a bad Colorado team. I know they lost the opener in their 4-game series at home to Seattle last night, but hopefully, if you can take 2 out of the next 3 games, whereas win these next 3 games, you'll still be okay. Texas is still the class of the AL West, but as long as Houston can play slightly above 500, they're not going anywhere. I still believe that they're a playoff team. They just got to get their key guys back healthy, and they got to get some consistent starting pitching.
Yeah, I think that's really been the problem for them so far. As the fact that, of course, with DeGrom being out, that's going to be another thing where who can step up, and they've been up and down. So we'll see what happens with them. Now, staying at the division, of course, the Angels, they've had some injury issues. Mike Trout, Shohei. I know Anthony Rendon is also another guy that, we talked about that a couple of days ago. They got swept by the Padres. We'll get to them in a second. So what do you think about the Angels? Are they starting to kind of come back? Our buddy Chris Gilman, our girl Christine Manica's husband to be, he's not very happy, I'm sure, right now with his Angels. So what do you think? I mean, can they right the ship, especially with their three of their top guys being out?
I don't know. It's going to be tough because Shohei and Trout lead that offense for the Angels. I know they got a bunch of guys out of position, including Hunter Renfroe now playing first base. That I know it doesn't make any sense, but that's what happens when we have a bunch of injuries. You have a lack of depth on their roster. We know traditionally they don't have tons of starting pitching. I know I like Reed Detmers. He's been doing well this year for Anaheim, but outside of that, they really don't have anything that really stands out to me. So Trout, I don't know if he's going to come back this year. Let's hope he does as baseball fans. But Shohei, he's been everything for that franchise and more. And Lakina, do you think that Anaheim should trade him should they fall off these next 2 weeks? Because I think that obviously you're going to get something for him at the deadline. But if Anaheim continues to struggle, you really going to have to contemplate that idea of trading. Maybe it was off the table a month ago, but you got to stare reality in the face. And they could go down that path. You have to really entertain some serious thoughts about trading.
Yeah, they're 6.5 back in the West. They're 3.5 back in the wild card. Of course, you got just about every team in the AL East, ahead of them. And of course, I think the Astros are up there too. So yeah, it could get tough. I mean, it could get to a point where the Angels, they may not have a choice. Maybe try to trade him, maybe get something for him. We talked about, the Yankees, of course. He may want to stay in LA. I mean, we'll talk about the Dodgers in a second, but I think there might be something they may have to seriously consider because, like you said, I mean, they've been on a little bit of a downward spiral. And, of course, like I said, with their top 3 guys being out, that might be something they may not have a choice here. So, yeah, well, we'll see what happens with them. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And especially these next couple of weeks after the All-Star break. Now, let's talk about the Mariners. Of course, we talk about they win 2 out of 3 against the Giants. They win, of course, they win the opener against Houston, and I talked about that too. Do you think Houston? I mean, you think Seattle could probably try to sneak it back in there and be right there in the AL wild card hunt at the very least?
They have a shot there right back at 500 at 4-3 and 43. Let's see if their starting pitching can get it going. Let's see if Julio Rodriguez can pick it up. They're all-star. Let's see if Ty France can pick it back up. You mentioned J.P. Crawford had that big home run last night to basically clinch that game for Seattle. It's going to be tough. I know they got in last year, and it was a great story, but, all eyes on them this year. So if they can get anything out of their starting staff and continue to get hot offensively, I think they have a shot. But the field is, especially for that wild card, forget the division. I don't think they're going to win the AL West. It's either Houston or Texas at this point. But the AL wild card is going to be a fight. And they thought they were in a fight last year, which they were. It's going to be a tougher fight this year.
Absolutely not.
Basically coming out of the AL East. Let's just be real, Lakina. It's not coming out of the Central.
No,
it's coming.
No.
You'll be battling the AL East for one of those 3 wild card spots.
Oh yeah, that's going to be a thing. At least 2 of those are going to be occupied by the AL East. Whoever whether it's the Orioles, the Yankees, or Blue Jays, or of a combination, or maybe all 3 of them will get those wild card spots. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. Now let's go across town and talk about those Dodgers. They went 3 out of 4 against the Pirates. And, like I said, I mean, could they perhaps maybe be in on the Ohtani, training, sweepstakes, if you will? And look, they've been playing pretty well lately. I mean, they're only like a half game out after bounce back after losing 2 out of 3, at Kansas City. Now they come back home. They win 3 out of 4. They actually do play the Angels starting tonight. We'll talk about that in a second. But they've actually looked pretty good. I mean, look, Max Muncy, of course, Freddie Freeman, going back to the All-Star game right there in Los Angeles. Los Angeles. Unfortunately, Daniel Hudson is on IL, so that might be a problem. So again, Lucas Giolito might be a guy that might be floating around too to the Dodgers as well. So what do you think about the Dodgers and their chances? Because I think if they get the injuries kind of to a minimum, which has been hard to do these last couple months, especially, what do you think about the Dodgers' chances?
I think they'll eventually overtake the Arizona Diamondbacks in the NL West. But you mentioned the injuries at a minimum. Don't forget Clayton Kershaw's on the IL right now. Maybe this is just a break for him. Hopefully that's the case. But the offense, as you mentioned, is heating up. Don't forget about Mookie Betts as well. I believe he's going to be in a home run derby on this coming Monday. He's starting to pick. He's picking it back up right now. But as we said before, the bullpen has been the problem for the Dodgers. GM Andrew Freeman is going to try his best to make a move for that at the deadline. They almost blew that game on Wednesday against the Pirates. If you paid attention to that, the Pirates left the bases loaded. They could not squeak out a run. So if it was some other team, trust me, the Dodgers would have lost another game. But hopefully, they're for their sake, they're turning around and give Arizona Diamondbacks a real scare, because I think they will. This NL race is not over. We'll see if and when San Diego gets to 500. The Giants, even though they're pesky, I know this is not the team that came out of nowhere 2 years ago, but you still have some of the same characters. Just the way they play, they're not going anywhere. So it's going to be a tough fight from here on out.
Yeah, saying the NL West, the Padres, you thought that we were leaving the Padres, we're leaving them for dead. Of course, they end up sweeping the Angels, and they play the Mets this weekend, starting tonight. Do you think the Padres can get back into this, the wild card race, or maybe even the NL West race?
They got to get it together in that bullpen. Josh Hader's been up and down this year. Their starting stat has been shaky at best. I know you still have Yu Darvish, you still have Blake Snell, you still have Musgrove, but they got to get it together with their pitching, and that's just the back end of the bullpen, especially. If they could do that, I think they'll be fine. But they put this offense in a huge hole. They just got to get to 500 first, and then after that, I think the skies will be the limit for them. But they got all the big names on offense, and we talk about one of the top high payroll teams in the league. This is one of them, and I know they're not having a great record right now, but they just got to get it together, both starting pitching, the back half of that starting rotation, and that back half of that bullpen.
Should be interesting to see where they go. So we'll see. It should be very interesting. Now, anything else before we talk about the scheduling for this weekend?
Oakland did something they did to the White Sox last weekend, take 2 out of 3. So I told you, those overrated Tigers, they avoided getting swept yesterday. Am I a believer in them? No. but they beat the Oakland A's 9-0 yesterday in Detroit. So Oakland takes 2 out of 3 in Motown. And of course, the Cleveland Guardians, they lose 2 out of 3 at home to the Atlanta Braves, but they won their opener last night in the 4-game set against the ugly Kansas City Royals 6-1.
Yeah, so it should be interesting to see what they may wreak havoc on some teams later on this season. So watch out for those A's. So let's talk about the schedule real quick, Sid, for this weekend. It should be a good one here. Could this be like your World Series preview? We'll see. Atlanta and Tampa Bay, the first game of that series. Remember, folks, it'll be on Apple TV Plus at 5:40. So those of you who are in Atlanta and Tampa, that's the only way you'll be able to watch it unless you got MLBTV.com. Philadelphia and Miami, that should be a fun one in the NL East. Toronto and Detroit. The Cubs against the Yankees. We're talking about that earlier. The Jays in Thailand against Carlos Rodon. That should be an interesting series. Texas and Washington. Kansas City and the Guardians. Guardians are a little bit of a struggle this week, so let's see if they can get back on track. Oakland and Boston. Baltimore, Minnesota, and here in the NL Central, you got Cincinnati and Milwaukee. Also, note that Baltimore, Minnesota game, the first game of that series will be the second game on Apple TV Plus doubleheader, if you will. So you guys got to check that. All you Twins and Orioles fans got to check that out on Apple TV Plus.
Okay, finishing out the weekend schedule, we'll have Cincinnati at Milwaukee. That's going to be a good one. Seattle at Houston, continuing their weekend 4-game set. Pittsburgh travels to Arizona to take on the Diamondbacks. The Mets, New York Mets will travel to San Diego to take on the Padres. Of course, the Angels and Dodgers will wrap up their freeway series. Remember, this is a 2-gamer this year because both those teams play each other 4 times. So this will be at Dodger Stadium. That's tonight and tomorrow. No Sunday game because both teams will have Sunday on. So they'll have an extended by a day as far as the All-Star break is concerned. And then, of course, you have Colorado at San Francisco to take on the Giants.
All right, your TV schedule for this weekend, of course, FS1 tomorrow, Saturday. You got Cincinnati and Milwaukee game 2 of that series. And your Fox, regional coverage, you got Atlanta and Tampa Bay, and also 2 Seattle and Houston. So a couple of great games to choose from there for those of you who want to check your local listings for times and for the game in your area. And on Peacock, you got Texas and Washington. Sorry about that, folks. You fans, of course, no Sunday night game. Of course, as you said, with the All-Star break coming up, so there's no Sunday night game this week.
All right, stay tuned for more sports and more fun as Second City Sports continues with our friend of the show from CBS 2 Chicago, Mr. Marshall Harris, coming up. And we'll have sports, media, news, and a whole lot more fun. I'm Sid, that's Lakina. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago.
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Move it!
earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports on this fun Friday Fun edition. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakina McGee, which is she. I am Sydney Brownhead. That's me. You can follow yours surely on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Lakina McGee on the Twitter and Akira's Growing in the IG.
We have less than an hour left of this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show. It's hard to speak today, even though it's Friday. We have less than an hour left of this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments for us, especially for our next guest, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. And just a daily reminder, you can also catch Sports Zone Chicago now available on Roku TV.
All right, so he's becoming one of our favorites. I know he's becoming one of you guys' favorites too as well. You can catch him on CBS 2 Chicago, talking, everything Chicago and also national sports as well. Let's not waste any time. So let's get one of our favorites on there from CBS 2, also the sports director there too. Here is Mr. Marshall Harris. Marshall, how are you?
Yeah, you know what? I'm living, guys. I'm living. I'm living. It's Friday. I'm off today. I'm chilling, eating some lunch. I'm cool, ready to chop it up with y'all. How are y'all doing?
Good.
You're doing great. Doing great.
You're great, Sid. I know you want to ask Marshall about your White Sox, so I'll let you have the floor.
Okay, you want me to get my headache out of the way?
Get out the way.
Let's
Get
do
out
so.
the way. Rip the Band-Aid off. Rip the Band-Aid off.
I know, Marshall, you're a White Sox fan as well, so I'll ask you. I know this team is 15 games under 500. They lost the doubleheader to Toronto yesterday. I know it's time to back up the truck for the White Sox. I think everybody's in play except for Luis Robert and Dylan Cease. Who do you think is the first one to go?
I might have said Joe Kelly until he showed up with an elbow injury. I mean, people are hurt.
Yeah.
As far as the first one to go, maybe Lance Lynn. He's shown flashes, had a great outing. Did not deserve. He deserved to win yesterday. Score a run. 7 innings of one hit ball, 11 strikeouts. He's got 41 strikeouts over his last 4 starts. I mean, he still clearly has something left in the tank. I mean, he just had 16 strikeouts a couple of Sundays ago. So I would think that's a guy that you can get stuff for. It's either him or Lucas Giolito. But really, I think everybody's up for grabs, including Tim Anderson. I mean, they have to stock the cupboard. Their farm system is not good. It's not good. And you need prospects in order to win. And their veterans haven't played well. No one's played well, except for Luis Robert Jr., really. Benintendi hasn't been bad, but, he's got no pop. But I guess you knew what you were getting. So to answer your question, I think Lance Lynn or Lucas Giolito, one of those guys.
How about Eloy? I know you know how I feel about Eloy Marshall, of course. He has gotten hurt. It's been over a month, so I guess that's progress. So you think he could
wow, I guess
guy?
Everything really is relative.
I know, right? I mean, do you think he could probably be a guy that could probably be moved against something for? We talked about it a couple of minutes ago. Do you think is he a name that perhaps might be a hot name for the Sox to try and move?
I think everyone's on the table. I mean, you look at what they have left, though. I mean, that's going to be more costly because he's got a lot more time left of control. But that's what a lot of teams are doing now is they're trading established players for prospects and to really reset and maybe paying a little bit of the salary if it's a more expensive guy like a Lance Lynn. If you want to get better prospects, you pay part of his salary. But yeah, man, everyone is up for grabs. Nothing should be untouchable at all. They thought they could run it back. They are 37-52. They have one of the worst records in all of baseball. I think the only teams with worse records than them in the American League are literally the Royals and the Athletics. And we know what the Athletics are. So I really thought that they had a chance because the division is so terrible. It is a terrible, terrible division. But they're 8.5 games out. And you know what? They might be – I think both they and the Cubs are the same amount of distance from first place, even though it feels like one of those teams is better than the other. But as I said before, it's all relative.
Now, what grade would you give first-year manager Pedro Grifol? It's safe to say that the honeymoon's been over for about a little bit over a month now, and people talk about what Tony La Russa did or didn't do last year. Even with his health condition, what grade would you give Pedro Grifol for his performance up behind the bench this year?
Sydney, if that was a honeymoon, I don't ever want to get married because that's what it's going to be like. 7-21 out the gate. That's not a honeymoon. I guess I'll give him a C because I don't know. I don't know how much of it is him. I don't know how much of it is the players. He doesn't have much to work with, whether it's injuries or just and they've been in a lot of these games. They've been right there. They were right there in game 1 of that doubleheader yesterday, and then they come back and tie the game in the second game of the doubleheader, and they lose by 1 run. They say good teams find a way to win, and bad teams find a way to lose. So the White Sox are a bad team. So I would give them a C. C minus. I'm going to say C minus because C is average, and he's below average because the team is below average. So I'll give him a C minus.
What do you think? What about the Cubs? Do you think the Cubs perhaps? I know that they're also 8 back of the NL, but I feel like they shouldn't, get rid of, Stroman, of course, assuming he can get healthy. Hendricks, who's actually been pretty good, been really good since coming back. What do you think the Cubs are going to be by the time, August 1st rolls around?
I don't know. August 1st is very close, but it's very far away because of the All-Star break and, taking some days off the calendar that way. I'm of the belief that you keep Marcus Stroman as long as they're within fighting distance, of a playoff spot. And when I say that, I mean if they're 5 games back at August 1st, you keep Marcus Stroman and roll the dice and see what happens. Because once you trade Marcus Stroman, I don't see how they can call themselves a contender. The goal is to make the playoffs and contend. I don't see them doing that without Marcus Stroman throwing the ball every 5th day. And then if you get to the playoffs, I don't see them winning a series without Marcus Stroman and Justin Steele and Kyle Hendricks all ready to go. So they're not in that different of a boat from the White Sox. Now they're playing better, but it's all relative to the competition. The Cincinnati Reds are scary, man. They are scary. They are young. They are hungry. And everybody knows who Ellie De La Cruz is now. And so I think it's interesting that they split that series with Milwaukee and still fell 2 games further off the pace. I want to see what happens with the Reds and the Brewers and the Cubs between now and August 1st. But if things trend like they've been trending lately, I think you got to flip guys like Cody Bellinger, Marcus Stroman, and get what you can get. Now, they don't have as dire a situation down on the farm. They've got prospects. They've got another wave of guys. But you can never have enough arms. You can never have enough prospects. If you don't think you can make the push this year, do it. But I feel like they'll be within 5 games of first place, August 1st.
Yeah. Let's go to that Cubs offense, Marshall. Me and Lakina have been talking about this for the last few weeks on our show. If this Cubs offense averages between 4 and 6, 7 runs a game, it gives that starting pitching a great advantage. But I've been really impressed by Nico Horner, Ian Happ lately. But Cody Bellinger, ever since he returned from injury, his bat has really been on fire. And Dansby Swanson, who's going to the All-Star game as well, has also been on fire with his bat. Talk about Dansby Swanson and Cody Bellinger with the bats that the impact they made on offense so far.
So I think what you have to do is say, Jed Hoyer and company, they went out and they got guys, and the guys have performed as you would expect them to perform. Cody Bellinger, he got hurt. People get hurt, but he's got a 12-game hitting streak. He went 4 for 4 with 3 RBIs yesterday with another home run. Dansby Swanson is an all-star. He's giving you premium shortstop. He's earning every bit of that contract that he signed. So I think you have to be happy with where they are with those 2 specific free agent pickups. Now, some of the other ones maybe didn't work out, but it's going to come down to the pitching, specifically the back end of the rotation and the bullpen. And then can you continue to get clutch hits when you need them? They've been right there and just kind of come up short in a lot of these games. They're the only team with a plus run differential in the entire National League Central. So, the telltale signs are there. It's just, what are they going to do about the Cincinnati Reds? Because, that's the team I'm looking at right now that can cause problems.
Let's switch gears here and talk about some fun stuff for once. Of course, Bears is going to be starting training camp in a couple of weeks. Of course, we know all the signings that the Bears have. They had a very busy off season. So, what do you think the ceiling is for the Bears this season, Marshall? Because I think 7 to 9 wins might be kind of like the cushion there. But so, where do you see it?
I think they have a very high ceiling, and I think they have a very low basement. Justin Fields. I'm just going to – those are the only words that matter right now. Mm-hmm. Justin Fields. The Bears have made a decision that if they're going to win games in 2023, it's going to be because Justin Fields in the offense does the work. You look at the defensive line and the same problem they had last year, league low in sacks per team, 20 sacks. I don't see that getting any better. I didn't see them pick up any big pass rusher. They don't call blitzes like they would need to get that pressure on the quarterback unless somebody's developed into an uncanny prospect that I'm not familiar with. It's going to be winning games 30-28, 35-31. That's what we're looking at. And so it all hinges on Justin Fields. He is the fulcrum of the offense, of whether or not it goes forward, stays the same, or even goes backwards. He's got weapons. He's got offensive linemen. Let's roll. So I don't know. It's too early for me to make a prediction, but the team to beat is the Detroit Lions. I think we can all agree on that. The way they finished the season, the way they looked really all season long. I mean, they had so many close calls that they lost too, and they barely missed the playoffs. And the other teams, I'm not sure. Kirk Cousins, no Dalvin Cook, Jordan Love, you tell me. I really believe the Bears could win 10, 11 games if Justin Fields is special. And when I say special, I don't mean running the football. I mean special throwing. Can he throw for 300 yards? These are the questions that I have. So you say happy times, but it's going to be a real depressed city if Justin Fields ends up not being good. Now, the Bears have a built-up backup plan. If they're terrible and Justin Fields is not the guy, they would then have their own pick, which would be a high pick. And then they would have what we think would be a high pick from the Carolina Panthers, and they can go out and get a quarterback.
We're talking to our guy, Marshall Harris, sports director from CBS Chicago, right here on Second City Sports on the Friday edition, right here on Sports on Chicago City. Can't hang out here with you. Let's take it over to the hard room. Marshall, talk about the Chicago Bulls. Of course, they picked up Torrey Craig. I know you. For those of you listening back on the replay on our podcast at Warp Media Podcast, Marshall just shook his head and rolled his eyes back. But the Bulls picked up Torrey Craig in free agency along with Javon Carter from the Milwaukee Bucks. Of course, Zach LaVine is still in rumors and trade talks. DeMar DeRozan to a lesser extent as well. What do you think the Bulls will do this offseason? Do you think they'll run it back, or do you think there's give us a percentage of if Zach or DeMar gets traded before the start of next season?
Well, people were talking about the Portland Trailblazers and the Philadelphia 76ers, and I'm like, James Harden doesn't want to come to the Bulls, right? Dame Lillard, I didn't see Chicago on his list of places that he desired to end up. So I don't know where that's coming from. Now, if it happens, okay, we'll adjust then. But I think they want to run it back. I think they have better role players with Javon Carter and Torrey Craig both that will fit their offense a little better. Both great defensive players. You already had a top 5 defensive team, and look at the defensive ratings for the teams. So I'm willing to give it a chance, because what other choice do I have? I'm not going to sit here and be overly critical. I don't think defense was ever their problem. I think their problem is what to do when you need points in the final 5 minutes of a game. We saw it against the Miami Heat. Like, a Miami Heat team that went all the way to the NBA Finals. The Bulls had them on the ropes with 3 minutes left and then imploded.
Yep. Let's talk about the other team that occupies the UC during the winter, which seems a little bit better, and that's the Blackhawks. Of course, they drafted Connor Bedard, of course, officially last week. Of course, they picked up guys like Corey Perry, other very veterans and such. So, do you think this, getting Bedard and all the other transactions, does this kind of like accelerate the Hawks' plan, or do you think they're going to still, maybe make it a slow build, if you will?
I think it's still a slow burn. I mean, Connor Bedard's 19 years old. He's going to be exciting to watch and everything else. But, like, if you look at where their other prospects are, their top prospects in the organization, they're all seemingly a year or 2 or 3 away from fully developing and being like a true contender, which is fine. That's the nature of hockey and, taking a bunch of teenagers. So we'll see how it plays out. Now, you said the other team in the UC, like the Bulls are better than the Blackhawks, and they'll be better than the Blackhawks next season, I think. But with the Bulls, it's like watching reruns right now until they show you something different. Like, we know what Zach LaVine is. We know what DeMar DeRozan is. We know what Nikola Vucevic. Now, can they be greater than the sum of their parts? Maybe the tweaking of the roster, and maybe Patrick Williams, Kobe White, maybe they take another step forward. That's possible, but with the Blackhawks, it's the Connor Bedard show. It's gonna be a thing every night. They're gonna fill that place up, like you said. But understand that it's gonna take some time. Now, maybe they make a run and make the playoffs somehow, some way. But they're a young team. They're not. I don't think anyone's expecting them to make the playoffs next year.
We're heading down the home stretch with our guy Marshall Harris from CBS Chicago Sports, right here on Second City Sports, the Friday edition, right here on Sports on Chicago City. Lakina hanging out here with you. Marshall, we forgot to mention at the top when we brought you on, but we'll mention it now. Of course, since you last joined us last year, of course, you're filling in, getting your voice out on 670 The Score, filling in. We enjoyed your work so far. You filled in yesterday on the Mullion Hall morning show. Of course, you did some shows with Gabriel Ramirez from B96, which I loved personally. Of course, you're a guest panelist on the Marquee Sports Network, the Reporters Sunday morning show. Talk to us about those opportunities. Me personally, I can speak for Lakina. I'll definitely speak for myself that we're glad that a voice like yours is expanding and you're getting these additional opportunities.
Well, you know what? I appreciate the opportunities as well. Radio's always been a passion of mine. A lot of things are a passion of mine, I guess I could say. But I just like doing different things. I don't like doing the same thing every day. I think that's monotonous and boring.
Right.
So when I have a platform where I can really get my opinions out there, the takes, if you will, let me cook. I might serve you a gourmet meal one day, and I might throw some stuff in the air fryer the next. But I'm gonna cook. And a lot of things that you throw in the air fryer, they come out nice and tasty. So let me cook. But yeah, it's just been great. The city of Chicago has been so welcoming. I'll be here. It'll be 2 years next week that I've been in Chicago, and I think I've had a great time so far. There's a lot more work to do. I'll be on Marquee Sunday morning on the Reporters. So I just think it's been fun. And like my whole thing is I got into this line of work because I wanted to have fun. So hopefully I can continue to do that.
Yeah, as I say, if you're not having fun at your job, then you might as well not be doing it, right?
There's a lot of people not having fun at their jobs.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, there you go. Now, I know we're a couple of months away from college football. I guess there was some news that came out that Northwestern suspended Pat Fitzgerald for 2 weeks for, I guess, I heard about this a couple of months ago, but there was some hazing going on and such. And What do you think? I know, are the wheels starting to fall off? I know there's a new brass over at Northwestern now. So do you think this will affect him and his job security, or will it be on the field stuff? What do you think?
I think it'd be prudent of Northwestern to do whatever they have to do with punishment, sanctions, whatever, but also understand who Pat Fitzgerald is within that college community, and understand that like that's a tough place to coach.
Yep.
The grass is not always green on the other side. He's had a lot of success in Northwestern. Now, has he had success lately? Absolutely not. But the body of work, the resume speaks for itself. I'm interested to see how it plays out. That's what I'm saying. Like it's very fresh and very new, the suspension. So I'm interested to hear from him, see how it plays out, everything else.
Okay. Let's go back to baseball, Marshall. And we talked about the Cubs earlier. Assuming that Shohei Ohtani doesn't get traded from the Los Angeles Angels off Anaheim at the trade deadline, we know he's a free agent this upcoming winter. And I know some Cubs fans would say that the Cubs should get in on the sweepstakes and get Ohtani. What percentage do you give the Cubs to even at least put in a request to talk to Mr. Ohtani? What percentage in terms of chances do you think that realistically that the Cubs can get Ohtani, because he's going to command a whole lot of money?
Yeah, I think in probably the $600 million range, if I'm the way it's sounding.
At least.
I honestly don't think the Cubs have a shot, because I think he wants to play on the West Coast, because I think he likes that short plane ride back to Japan. That's my honest opinion. But would we love to have Shohei Ohtani in Chicago? Absolutely. I think he's the most underrated athlete playing, and that's weird because he's not, like, people don't know who he is. But he's I think he's also the best athlete on the planet right now. But you might say other guys, Kylian Mbappe comes to mind. I mean, LeBron's way past his prime. So just straight athlete, like his ability to do two things on a baseball diamond that at an elite level, pitch and well, actually he can do everything. He can pitch, he can field, he can run. Obviously it's home runs. But yeah, it would be great to see him in Chicago. I think it's a pipe dream, but you know what? Pipe dreams come true too. But I think he's going to end up either with the Dodgers or the Giants. The Giants really intrigues me. It's a pitcher's ballpark there at is it Oracle Park now? Yeah. Oracle Park.
Yeah.
So I like that fit for him because of his stated personal goals of living on the West Coast.
Yeah, it's, like you said, a short plane right now. Let's talk a little bit about the Sky for a second. We don't get a chance to talk about the Sky a lot here now. Unfortunately, James Wade, left for an assistant coaching job in the NBA. They've actually been okay. They're 8-9 as we're recording this. Do you think they can sneak into the playoffs this year, despite a manifesto, players leaving, Coach Wade leaving? Do you think they have a shot of making the playoffs?
Yeah, I think they're fine with Emre Vatansever. He's coached players over in Turkey like Diana Taurasi, Tina Charles, Sylvia Floyd, Sylvia Fowles. So Vatansever, I think you're okay at your head coaching position. I also think Kalia Copper's going to be Kalia Copper, three-time All-Star. It's so weird because they're 8-9, right? And to answer your overall question, yeah, they're going to make the playoffs. There's 12 teams, 8 teams to make the playoffs. They're going to make the playoffs. Are they going to win anything? No, because the Las Vegas Aces wanted me to let you know that's over and done.
They're still here.
They've lost one game all season, and they haven't lost a home game.
Right.
So here's the thing. Courtney Williams is the key. Yeah. During their 6-game losing streak, which led up to their 3-game winning streak they're currently on, she was averaging 4 points a game. 4 points a game. Now, they won 3 games since, and because of that, she was the Eastern Conference Player of the Week. She's the reigning Eastern Conference Player of the Week. She's averaging 28-8. How do you go from – she scored 28 points in their last win on Sunday. That's more points than she had scored in the 6 games during that losing streak combined. So if she continues to play like she's playing, they could cause some problems. They could maybe even win a first-round matchup. They're currently, I believe, the 6th seed at 8-9.
Yeah, interesting. We'll see what happens with the Sky. Wrapping up here, a moment or two left with Marshall Harris from CBS2 Chicago Sports right here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakiana hanging out here with you. Marshall, I don't know how much interest that you have in the NBA Summer League. If you don't, that's okay, but I'll ask this question anyway. Are you looking forward to tonight's rookie matchup between Brandon Miller and Victor Wembanyama when Charlotte faces San Antonio? Okay.
Yeah, I think Charlotte, I hope Brandon Miller has a great, fabulous career. I think Charlotte's going to regret not drafting Scoot Henderson till the cows come home, and then some. Wemby, we want to see Wemby. We want to see Wemby against elite talent and see what he's doing. So this is a nice little taste of, a little appetizer before the regular season to see him in the summer league. I mean, Vegas is a good time anytime. I was just out there a couple weeks ago for Usher's residency. Yep. I strongly encourage you to attend if you have the means and the time. But yeah, I'll be paying attention to Wemby. I don't think I'll watch it live because I got stuff to do. It's Friday. But I'll catch you.
Taking us with DVR.
Yeah, it definitely on DVR, and we'll check it out. But yeah, I'm interested. I just the Scoot Henderson, Brandon Miller thing. I hope I'm wrong and everybody's happy, but I really like Scoot. I really do.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, we'll definitely see. That should be a fun matchup to come up. This summer league. Now, I know you're. I don't know how big of a Sacramento's King. I know you came from Sacramento here in Chicago a couple years ago. How did you feel about what a great run that they had this year? Can they build on it? Last question for me.
Well, the Kings?
Yes.
Absolutely, they can build on it. De'Aaron Fox is only going to get better. Domantas Sabonis has got some work to do, free throw and defensively wise. But Keegan Murray? I don't know if y'all saw his first game this summer at the California Classic. First possession, dunking on people. He looks mean and nasty, and we already know he can shoot. That team is on the come up. They are a problem. They just re-signed Harrison Barnes, so you got some veteran leadership there. Of course, he won a title with the Warriors. So yeah, I think the Kings are going to be a problem.
Yeah. Last question from me, Marshall. When we last had you on, you were just selling into the city of Chicago. As me and Lakina said before, congratulations on your 2-year anniversary next week. As you well know, we have 3 months of this beautiful weather before it turns again. So I wanted to ask you, what's some of the things you have done outside, of course, in the city of Chicago? What's some of the things you plan on doing before this weather changes in a couple of months?
Well, you got to take it. Look, listen, I always tell people who don't live here, summertime shy, elite.
Yes.
Probably no place I'd rather be in the country during the summertime than Chicago. Not the same answer for those other months, but we all know that.
Right.
I'll say,
Unfortunately.
anything outside, I love spending time on the lakeshore, on the lakefront, excuse me. Going for a run, going for a walk. Find me a rooftop, I'm on the rooftop. Having a beverage, a cold beverage, and just being outside, when people are outside, because people aren't always outside in Chicago. So it's been good. I'm trying to do more of that. That's why I won't be watching Wemby tonight live, because I'm gonna try to get out a little bit and just see what's going on. Good weather. It's good. Today's perfect. It was soupy all week until yesterday, and now this is that San Diego style weather. I'm here for all of it.
We try with the weather, especially in the summer, if nothing else. So we try. Again, Marshall, as always, thank you so much for joining us today. Where people can find you on air, what's the next time you're going to be filling out the score, all that good stuff.
Well, catch me online at all the, we got 1,000 apps now, but all the apps, M Harris on air, MHARRISONAIR, and you can catch me on CBS 2. Sunday through Thursday. On Sundays, it's 5 and 10 o'clock. We have a show called Sports Extra, a little 15-minute of sports, and then 4, 5, 6, and 10 Monday through Thursday. I'm in there talking about the sports and whatnot.
Okay, and we'll also catch you on Marquee Sports Network, correct? This coming Sunday on the Reporters.
Sunday?
I'll be there.
Okay. Yeah. All right. And also, too, congratulations to you guys hiring the hometown hometown reporter, Jory Perry's. I know
Yes.
she's been there for a while, but I know she's been getting on their opportunities for the last few weeks. So you guys made a great addition. She's going to be a great asset to you guys in the sports department. So we just want to say congratulations to you on that.
We love working with her, and we're glad that she's here and she's doing a phenomenal job.
All right.
We gotta get her on the show soon, Sid. So yeah, and tell Matt and Jackie we said. Tell Matt and Jackie we said what's up, Marshall.
I can do that.
All right. We'll be
stay safe.
Yeah, we'll be watching and supporting you. Keep up the great work.
All right, you guys keep it rolling, man. Enjoy your Friday.
Yeah, you too.
Stay safe. Stay cool. All right, that was Marshall Harris, CBS Chicago. Okay, Sid. Let's take a little quick break. We gotta towel off here. Of course, we'll talk some sports. Yeah, well, exactly. We'll talk some sports media news. Of course, the Fox College football kickoff has hired another Heisman Trophy winner. We'll talk about that.
Didn't see this coming.
Right, right. I know, right. Well, we'll definitely talk about that, of course. What's holding up Dave to Miami? I mean, TikTok, folks. I mean, what's going on there? So, a lot more to do still in the last half hour. Second Season Sports on Sports of Chicago, Sports Media News, and we'll do rapid fire coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too. These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on the Fun Friday Fun Edition. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. This is our last break for today and our last break for the week. I am Sid the Kid, which is me. That's Lakina McGee, which is she. You can follow yours surely on the Twitter and the IG, and perhaps on Threads as well at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
And you follow Akina McGee on the Twitter and Akina's going again the IG. No Threads yet. You guys can have that one. I don't know.
We can't convince you to join the Threads community yet.
Oh no, sir. Of course, I want to clean it up here. Of course, when I told Marshall, buddy Marshall Harris, that Matt. I'm talking about Matt Zahn and Jackie Costa, who also work at CBS 2 Chicago. Of course,
yes.
Matt does sports, sports anchor reporting. Of course, Jackie does pretty much, both.
Friend of the show as well, Matt Zahn. Both friends of the show. So we got to get those two back on. Of course, the new lady Jordy back on. Jordy on soon as well. Of course, maybe we try to get her on before training camp. So we'll see. But yeah, just wanted to clean it up a little bit. Yeah. So we can't convince you to join the Threads community yet.
No, sir.
I know it's in the early stages, but it's no foolishness over there yet. Anyway,
I'll say yeah. That's the key part. The key part. Yet. So where do you want to go first to go in this last 20, 22, 25-ish minutes of this extravaganza we call a sports talk radio show?
Well, let's start out with the news item that you teased before the break. Fox college football kickoff. Of course, the new college football season will be here before you know it. A little bit less than a month and a half away. I know they kick off around Labor Day weekend. And speaking of Fox TV, Reggie Bush was in a contract dispute with Fox, so they went to get his replacement, former teammate Mark Ingram, former NFL running back. Of course, he was a standout at Alabama, Roll Tide. So he's going to replace Mr. Reggie Bush for this upcoming year for their pregame show. Of course, I believe Rob Stone is still there. Matt Leinart is still there. I think Coach Urban Meyer is still there. So the cast of characters stay the same, but Mark Ingram will replace Reggie Bush for this upcoming year on Fox college football TV coverage.
Yeah, I mean, of course, you guys, I know Andrew Marchand, of course, at the New York Post. Of course, he and John Oren do a great podcast that you guys can check out.
Yes.
Pretty much any place where you get your podcast. Now, I guess apparently he, came out and said that, of course, Reggie feels that Fox has been playing around with his money. So, that he wanted a little bit of raise. Fox said no. And, not only are they going to say no, but we're going to hire another former Heisman Trophy winner from 2011 from Alabama, Mr. Mark Ingram, of course, the veteran NFL running back. Of course, he has 6,500 rushing yards. He's the all-time leading rusher for the Saints, and of course, like you said, he'll join Rob Stone, Matt Leinart, and of course, Coach Urban Meyer this coming season. Didn't really see this coming at all. I know he does. I know he does a podcast. I know Mark does a podcast, so of course, the media stuff, it's going to be interesting. But yeah. And look, I mean, they've got some openings over at ESPN. So I guess, if Reggie decides he wants to maybe perhaps do it, or maybe you can go to NBC Sports. I mean, remember, USC is going to be joining the Big Ten in a couple, next season. I should, not this season, next season. So he'll have his spots. But yeah, pretty, kind of interesting way how they did that. But, we'll see how this goes.
Yeah, I read the article courtesy of our good folks at awfulannouncing.com. And I actually enjoyed Reggie's input and intake doing that during the college football season. So, and I know that the Fox execs were really raving very high about Mark Ingram's audition and his knowledge about college football, his passion for it. So hopefully it'll translate obviously to the big screen, and we'll see what happens there. I'm willing to give Mr. Ingram a chance. So we'll see what happens with that. It's like you said, there's changes always coming in college football, both college sports in particular, but we're talking about college football, both on and off the field, as you mentioned. We're going to see it with many of these conferences, last year's of these traditional rivalries before they go to their new conferences for next year.
Yeah, it's sort of like weird how kind of all that kind of has transpired in the last few years, especially with all the conference realignment and all that. So, it's a little bit, it's a little bit crazy. So yeah, I'm sure Mark will do just fine. If you heard some of his various, pressers, he is very engaging. So it shouldn't really be a big of an issue. But yeah, we just see how he does, and then the studio stuff. But yeah, I mean, they've been coming for college game day too. I mean, the Rays they're actually kind of like right there, like near them. Like I think they're only down maybe like a couple 100,000 viewers, I think, from last year. So we'll see what happens, especially with this new change coming up, and of course with the change going on at ESPN. They might give ESPN's college game day a run for their money. We'll see. But yeah, it should be just see how this goes. Like I said.
Oh yeah, I just want to say I want to see what Fox pregame, the college pregame does, because I wasn't it last year or was it 2 years ago, Lakina, where it was Notre Dame and Wisconsin. They were broadcasting from Soldier Field, but on the opposite ends of the stadium. I think Fox beat them in the ratings. I'm not sure.
That was last season. Okay. That was last season. I think Fox just edged them out. So it might have been a regional thing. So again, yeah, we'll see how this goes here, but. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be a battle between those two, so we'll see.
Yeah. Staying with the sports media news, Lakina, I don't think this should be too surprising, but this comes from our good friends at awfulannouncing.com. Once again, since we talked about the loss at ESPN going on for the last couple of weeks, Kendrick Perkins, who you can see him on SportsCenter, you can see him on the NBA Today daily afternoon show on ESPN. It looks like he's going to be the top candidate. At least he's the lead candidate right now to replace Jalen Rose on NBA Countdown.
Yeah, I saw that, and yeah, I mean, look, nothing's going to be inside the NBA with EJ. Of course, congrats to him for coming to the America Sports Broadcasters Hall of Fame. Of course, we forgot to mention that a couple weeks ago, so we want to give him a shout. They're very deserving of that honor. And I mean, look, it's going to be interesting, like you said. I mean, I know his Perk's tastes are very polarizing at times. You either really like his takes or you really you want to strangle him. So for some of the things he says. So I guess that's what you want. I mean, we'll see what happens with that, but I kind of feel like he's definitely more fit for the studio stuff. So we'll see how he does. I mean, it's kind of hard. I mean, like I said, I think TNT's inside the NBA. Of course, I think they beat them, but even the NBA TV, the ones they do, kind of beat the ESPN's by a mile. So it's again, Perk's okay. I don't think he's like at that level, but Perk is okay. But it's just you wouldn't like some of the decisions that they made, but we'll see.
Yeah. You listen to Second City Sports on Chicago. Sid Lakina hanging out here with you as we wrap up today's show. We still have some time left. I want to ask you, I know you keep up with this more than I do. Let's turn to the world of golf. Are you looking forward to this year's U.S. Women's Open tournament?
I've been keeping an eye on it, and I think, look, it's sort of like, again, I think, the LPGA Tour is sort of one of those tours where I don't want to say it's a niche, but it's sort of like one of those things where people don't really pay attention to unless like something really big happens. And so I'm kind of keeping my eye on it. I know NBC's been really hyping it. I know the second I think the first round is right now over there on you can stream it on Peacock.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, on Peacock.
I think the Golf Channel too, which is a subdivision of NBC.
Yep. So so you can be a place to watch it, but probably one of the more intriguing stories so far this golf session, and I think the last couple of weeks I want to make sure I get her name right because I don't want to, I don't want to, like get her name wrong or anything like that. But yeah, I think the U.S. was always, I think it could rate really high. If they get like at least 800,000 viewers, I think that might be that's a big win for them. Rose Zhang, she'll try to become the first, the eighth player to win both the U.S. Women's Open and the U.S. Amateur Open. The only one to win both within the last 50 years is Julie Easter. She did it, I think she did it about like 40 years ago. So it's been a while. That's probably gonna be what people are gonna be looking to see if she can. She came out of nowhere, won her first LPGA title. After winning the amateur. So. She's the big story coming up for the U.S. Women's Open. So we'll see how she does.
Yeah, the reason why I asked you that question, and this is a couple of questions we should have asked Marshall, but we were running out of time. The reason why I asked you that question because we talked about the NASCAR race from last weekend here in Chicago. Of course, NBC is the home of the U.S. Women's Golf, and they kept advertising the what out of it, and rightly so because they want to keep their keep their old viewers and get new viewers like yours truly to watch. But also, number two, we were talking with Marshall in our last break when you brought up the Chicago Sky. I know we don't talk much about them on this program, but I wanted to ask him specifically about the WNBA. Maybe you could tie this into the LPGA as well. But what, in your opinion, I'll ask you, Lakina, what's some of the ways that can women's sports grow in terms of getting a new audience to watch their sport? I think, like I said, this pertains more to the WNBA and to a lesser extent the LPGA tour.
Yeah, I think maybe it's because of gambling. I think that plays. I think no one wants to admit that, but I think that plays a big part as to why you're seeing WNBA. They with the WSL, LPGA. I think gambling is playing a big part as to why some of these, you would say, quote unquote, niche sports has been becoming such hugely popular. They're not the level of, we're not talking about the four major sports, but they're kind of like definitely holding their own, especially at this time of year where this is kind of like a dead time. So I think that's probably one of the reasons why you're seeing such a slight increase among those.
Okay, we're having audio issues with Lakina. Hopefully, she'll rejoin us shortly. As you're listening to Second City Sports right here in Sports Zone Chicago, yours truly, Sydney Brown and Lakina McGee, hanging out here with you as we wrap up today's show. We still have a couple of minutes left. The reason why I asked that question was because that we know that women's sports they do bring some money in, but people talk about the inequality in terms of equal pay with the women's athletes compared to the male athletes, and some of the other things that are going on behind the scenes, especially with the WNBA. They still do not get to travel with the luxury, using air quotes here, just like their male counterparts in the NBA. They still have travel issues and other logistic issues, things along that line. And so, but as far as the on the court product for the WNBA, you still have a young and exciting player like Brianna Stewart and Sabrina Onusu for the New York Liberty. And what is your audience? Is your audience not just women, but is it young kids? I think you're starting to see that a little bit now. You're starting to see a little bit more interest in women's sports. And I noticed that a little bit here in the city of Chicago. Of course, the Chicago Sky won the title a couple of years ago, and which did spark up some interest. Their games are airing on the Marquee Sports Network now, just like it was the case last year. So we'll see what happens with the WNBA. They need to market their sport more to a new audience, and let's see what happens with the LPGA tour this weekend. As Lakina said, will they get their numbers up on NBC and their streaming service Peacock, and of course on the Golf Channel? We'll see what happens with that, and what ways can you do to attract a new audience? I thought Lakina brought up as far as gambling is concerned, which will spark up an interest. But what other avenues can you reach a new audience to get them to watch your product? And we had Maggie Hendricks from Valley Sports on a couple months ago talking about the WNBA. They added a 4-point shot in the All-Star game. They added a couple of new inquiries to have people watch their sport. And I think those, as long as it's not too gimmicky, I think you can reach, as long as it's entertaining, as long as it's intriguing to your sport. I think you can get your audience, a new audience, to watch your sport, make things a little bit entertaining, and make sure to keep the sport alive, because you have to have some personalities as well that have that it factor. We talk about it all the time as far as sports broadcasting is concerned. You look at personalities like a Joe Buck or Troy Aikman for Monday Night Football for ESPN. You look at Doug Collins, who used to do the games for NBC back in the day, in TNT for the NBA. He has the it factor. You look at the late great John Madden, who passed away over a year or so ago. He had that it factor. So for the women's sports, you had to have those personalities that had that it factor, and had them connect to their fan base, not just to their fan base, but to a new audience that attracts them to watch your sport. And we'll see what happens if the WNBA and the LPGA Tour can do that. Now, I'll go back to the WNBA with Caitlin Clark, who's going to return to the University of Iowa next year. You saw what kind of run she had with the University of Iowa, carrying that team to the Final Four, and before they bowed out in the championship game. So she's a lightning personality. She's a very damn good basketball player, and she attracts not just the young girls, but the college basketball fan in particular. We'll see how many games for her team, the University of Iowa, the Lady Hawkeyes, will get on the big ESPN. We'll see how many games will be on the Fox cable network FS1 next year, because with someone like Yeshua that I do watch women's sports here and there, but it doesn't appeal to me, obviously because I don't have any kids. But it sort of lacks the entertainment factor at times, even though the female basketball players do play great, fundamentally sound basketball. But you got to have the entertainment aspect as well, and you got to have those personalities that sell your sport. Do the WNBA, do they have that right now? With some players, as I mentioned earlier, I think you do, but they don't have enough of them. And you got to have a broader reach as far as fans watching your games. I know the attendance is slightly up, but do you have enough people, enough outlets to watch your games? It's not just over traditional TV or cable TV anymore. You got to have streaming services, and you have to have. I don't know if a WNBA. I know that unfortunately it's the case here in Chicago, but I don't know if any WNBA team has a radio contract. So you have to have other avenues for people to consume your product. If you don't have other players, other avenues for people to have the opportunity to consume your product, you're going to be in trouble. So I think that's one of the things that you have to look out for as far as women's sports in particular is concerned. So we'll see what happens with that. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid the Kid here, riding solo with you. Hopefully, Lakina will have the opportunity to join me before we close out the show for today. As she mentioned before, this is the quote-unquote dead time in sports. Around this time of year, of course, baseball is wrapping up their first half of the season for this upcoming All-Star break. The All-Star game will take place next week in Seattle, Washington, for the All-Star game. For you White Sox fans, even though it's been disappointing for us this year, how much are you looking forward to Luis Robert Jr. participating in the home run derby? He's going to be matched up in he's the number one seed right now. I'm sure he's a favorite among some people in Vegas to take home the title. Are you going to watch the home run derby? I know they had to change the format from the last few years. I kind of like it. How many home runs can you hit under a minute? And I know they have certain gimmicks of if you hit a specialty ball, you get certain points for that, and part of that goes to the fans. And so, are you looking forward to watching Luis Robert Jr. and Mookie Betts and Julio Rodriguez, the hometown guy for the Mariners, participate in the home run derby? Of course, that's really the big event that really celebrates the All-Star game outside the actual game itself. Are you looking forward to that for this upcoming early next week? Let me know in the comments at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago YouTube. Type in your answers in the comment section. I will get them up on the screen for you. But also at this time of the year, we talk about football in training camp opening up in a couple of weeks. And we talk about around here, of course, we talk about the Chicago Bears as a hometown team. But you look at other situations from around football. Of course, Aaron Rodgers will be settling in with his new team, the New York Jets. I see quarterback state team back to the playoffs with perhaps even bigger aspirations as far as the Super Bowl is concerned. Of course, free agent running back Dalvin Cook is visiting the Miami Dolphins today. Perhaps he may sign a free agent contract with them, as Tua Tagovailoa is trying to get weapons around him for this upcoming year. Of course, you take a look around some of the other teams around the NFL, the San Francisco 49ers. How's the health of the shoulder of Brock Purdy? Will he be the quarterback on opening day this year when the 49ers take on the Pittsburgh Steelers in September to start their season? We'll see what happens with that. Jimmy Garoppolo, he had off-season shoulder surgery. Now he's the new quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders. You have to look at his situation. Can he help get the Raiders back into prominence? We'll see what happens with that. So a bunch of storylines for the NFL coming up as training camp will take place this upcoming week. I wanted to ask you guys out there, and listening and watching us right now on Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube, are you looking forward to the New York Jets being on Hard Knocks this year? Because no team wanted to do it this year. Of course, the rule is you had to be out the playoffs the last couple of years, and the NFL will have to ask you if you want to do it. If you don't want to do it, that's fine. But if no one wants to do it, the NFL has the right to pick a team to go to participate in this in this program, which is being shown on HBO Sports throughout the month of August and leading up to the regular season opener in the first week of September. Are you looking forward to watching Aaron Rodgers and crew this year on Hard Knocks as the New York Jets trying to get back into the playoffs? Of course, Aaron Rodgers is that big personality that draws everybody in. He has a condescending personality. And I know sometimes he rubs people the wrong way, but on the other side, you have big fans of him as well, because he's been a top quarterback in the league throughout all these years. And, of course, you have other personalities like Todd Conklin, the tight end there. You have a second-year running back soon recovering from ACL surgery in Breece Hall. Well, are you looking forward to watching Hard Knocks? And be honest with you, haven't liked the teams that have been picked for Hard Knocks the last few years because, you see the same storyline every year. You have your superstars, you have the people that you don't like in the villains, you have the players that are trying to make the team. You're going to have that Kurt Warner guy. I'm talking about Kurt Warner, the Pro Football Hall of Fame quarterback, used to play for the Rams back in the day and won a Super Bowl with them. You're going to have that Kurt Warner story. He's been working at UPS. He's been working at a grocery store for the last 20 years. He's trying to latch on to the team. You got to have those heartfelt stories, but it's just something that element is missing. And many people, including yours truly, have said that the best one that Hard Knocks series that they have ever done is the Baltimore Ravens in 2001, the year after they won the Super Bowl. So we'll see what happens with the Jets on Hard Knocks, but it's been lacking some substance over the last few years. Like I was talking about Hard Knocks before you came back. Are you looking forward to watching Aaron Rodgers and crew from New York Jets on Hard Knocks this year?
Yeah, it should be very interesting. And I know that the Jets don't want to do it, but unfortunately, they got to do it. They're basically being forced to do it. So I know Robert Saleh, didn't want to do it, but look, they're the most intriguing team this year. So it's going to be interesting to see where, how their mindset's going to be. I mean, you might see a little bit, into Robert Saleh's personal life. You may see like some of the rookies that they got this year. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. We'll see. Maybe we'll see Breece Hall, coming back from the ACL injury that he had, last year. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see how that's going to go. But yeah, sorry about that, folks. I don't know what the heck, good old technical difficulties there. But but yeah, what of course, other than what else did you talk about while I was trying to get back on here?
How can women's sports, in particular the WNBA, grow their brand? As I mentioned, I know unfortunately it's a situation here in Chicago, but I don't know about the other teams, but I know unfortunately it's a situation here in Chicago that no WNBA team has a radio contract. I know that locally the games are broadcasted here on Marquee. I'm talking about the Chicago Sky, but what other ways do you think that the WNBA can grow their game or perhaps reach a new audience? Because their attendance is slightly up, and we know they're getting the fans, especially here in Chicago. But in your opinion, what other avenues and what other things that can the WNBA try to grow their game?
Yeah, I think it's
outside of gambling.
Well, yeah, I think that's been people need to forget that, as I was saying, that's been one of the main reasons why you're seeing WNBA, NWSL, MLS, those sports we're seeing such a high hike in viewership is because of gambling and, parlays and such. So I think that's a big reason why that's happening. Now, I think, look, they're doing okay. I think, look, the NBA, the ESPN ratings have been very solid for them. I know some of the other avenues where they're at. I think CBS Sports Network, I think they have a couple of games, they're slightly up a little bit. I think they're doing fine. It's all about interest. I think people, I think, look, unfortunately, folks are still not interested in seeing, women's soccer and, women's, in WNBA basketball. It's just, I think people shouldn't be forced to watch something that maybe aren't entertained by. You can, people can, hype it all they want, but most people have their habits. And I think that's another thing that's a problem. I mean, look, you got young girls tuning in. I think that's really the niche. And sports, of course, WNBA is pretty. The games are pretty easy to go to, and they're pretty cheap. So it is what it is. But yeah, I'm not gonna freak out about, oh my god, like no, it's it is what it is with them.
Yeah, and one last question for you before we close out for the weekend. Are you looking? Well, I'm sure we'll get into this more deeper on Monday. Are you looking forward to the home run derby?
I mean, I'll probably take a look at it. I mean, look, we'll see how. I know they put a time limit on there. It still seems long with the time limit.
I like that.
So,
I know they did that a few years ago, but I like that.
Yeah, I don't mind that. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see who do you think is the favorite there. I know Robert Jr. has to face Ali Rosman, who's been probably one of the best hitters from the Orioles squad. So Robert Jr. will have a very tough go at it, but I think it should be interesting. It should be very interesting, I think, but we'll see. But yeah, it should be interesting at a home run derby, I think.
Yeah, Julio Rodriguez, who I picked to win it last year, he came in second place. The pressure is going to be on him because the All-Star game is in Seattle this year. Right. Don't forget about Mookie Betts. I think it'd be a sneaky good pick as well.
Yeah, Mookie could probably sneak in there too, and perhaps maybe win. I know Pete Alonso, who won last year, just edging out Rodriguez. I know he's going to want to. I know he's been been battling injuries, but I know he's going to want to get back into it this year. So it'll be, like I said, it should be interesting. It should be a fun home run derby up there in Seattle. I know the folks there are going to be cheering hard for Mr. Rodriguez. So we'll see. But yeah, it should be a fun home run derby. You guys can check it out on ESPN Monday.
All right. Yep. Yeah, this coming Monday on ESPN. All right, Lakina, we're about to close it out. Of course, yours truly will be at the Sox-Cardinals games tomorrow and Sunday. Don't ask me why, other than I'm slated to go to those games, but yours truly has to get some work in, if you know what I mean. But I'll be there this weekend. But also, we'll talk about Wimbledon, the tennis tournament. We'll get more deep into that on Monday. I know we're running out of time, but we'll talk about more about that on Monday as the field shrinks as the rounds continue on there from the club, all tennis club in England, as they say. So we'll talk about that. Of course, we'll give our reviews, our grades for the first half of these MLB teams this season. I'm sure we're gonna have some more football to talk about that as well, and we're gonna have a very special guest. Should we say it right now, or make it a tease for them to join on Monday?
Keep them guessing. Keep them guessing towards Monday.
Okay. Yes.
And of course,
this person is a Chicago sports broadcasting legend. I'll end it with that.
Right, and we'll have various folks coming up in these next couple weeks before Bears training camp. So they're not going to be the only one. We'll have try to get some more familiar names. Come back to preview Bears and NFL and other sports. So yeah, don't worry, folks. We'll try to get you covered. I know. Our buddy Brandon was saying Kyle Tuck. I know he's there too, but he might be a sleeper there. So we'll see what happens with that. With that said, you can follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keel's coming again the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sidney Brown, on the Twitter and the IG and threads too at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. We'll see. We'll get Lakina on threads in sometime in the near future. Wink, wink. Speaking of Sports Zone Chicago, make sure you download that app today. You can go to the Google Play Store and download that Sports Zone Chicago app. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Subscribe to our podcast at Ward Media Podcast. We're available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. That's at WARR Media, PODCASTS. And while you're at it, please give Ward Media a follow at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We'd like to thank Marshall Harris from CBS2 Chicago for joining us today on the program. He always brings his hot takes of great insights into Chicago sports and more. You can follow him on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads as well at M Harris on Air. That's M Harris on Air. You can catch him this Sunday on the Marquee Sports Network. The Reporters that airs live on Sundays at 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time on the Marquee Sports Network. Yes, that's the TV home of the Chicago Cubs. And they'll have replays of that show throughout the day and throughout the week as well. So we'd like to thank him for joining the program today.
Absolutely. Of course, you can catch Sports Zone Chicago anytime, anywhere on Roku TV, wherever you get your Roku TV app, whether on the stick or whether if you have have it on your whatever device you got, just type in Sports Zone Chicago. You can catch our show, Sean and Maya, the Smoke Fellas, and a whole lot more. Of course, I know Maya's got some stuff too coming up as well that you guys check out there. So check it out anytime, anywhere.
Yes, and don't forget you can catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, exclusively right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
All right, so enjoy the weather out there. It's actually gonna be pretty decent this next couple of days. So make sure you guys enjoy the weather. Don't act stupid. Wash your hands and just be good to each other. This has been Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Enjoy this weekend MLB and all the other sports that are out there, and we'll see you at our regular spot on Monday.
Till then, go Sox, I guess. Holla!
I guess. You know what I'm saying? You guess. You guess. So yeah, we'll see you Monday.